Create an account, redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Okay. And again, Oliv Miller passed away of cancer. So, Celtic City is up and running. We've seen episode 3. Later in the week, we'll be dropping an episode where we talk just about that. But I do want to focus on Dave Cowens because he was prominent in episode 3, and you were perhaps the closest member of the media with him. I found it really interesting with Dave, with the relationship that he had and the mutual respect with Spencer Haywood.
I was really gratified, if you will, because I'm so proprietary toward Dave that this dude hear Spencer Haywood rhapsodize about Dave and how good Dave was and how much he admired him, loved playing against him, etc. Yeah, that made me feel real good. And by the way, I once gave Spencer Haywood a ride to the airport, and I don't know how he ever got in my car, but that's another story. Okay, now Dave Cowens. I remember my first encounter. I was vaguely aware of him in college. Remember when he was at Florida State, they were on probation, and he never got to play in the NCAA tournament. Okay, so that's number one. He never got to play in the tournament, and so he didn't get that kind of exposure.
Right.
That might have put him. But we knew there was this 6'9" guy that rebounded where, and the Celtics had, and of course the famous story, Red supposedly in one of his scouting missions, he went to see him play, I believe in Dayton, and Red kind of made a show of walking out after the first half, and people thinking he was unimpressed when it was, of course, just the opposite. Red was trying to let people think he was unimpressed. So, and trying to con people into drafting and not drafting him. And of course, the great luck of the draft, he was 4th, and guess who was 5th? Sam Lacey. Yeah, I think Celtic history would have been a little bit different. No offense, Sam, but you ain't Dave Cowens.
Right.
You never were. You're a nice big fella, but you're not Dave Cowens. Okay, it was the 4th pick in the 1970 draft, one of the most bountiful drafts in NBA history, by the way. We could do a whole segment someday. Seriously, on this 1970 draft.
Well, I mean, Dave was co-rookie of the year with Jeff Petrie.
He was co-rookie of the year with Jeff Petrie, which of course angered me because I was upset. Dave Petrie was the best player on a crap team, and Dave was the guy who helped transform the Celtics into what they became in the 70s. But anyway, okay, I got a phone call in August of 1970. The summer of 70, after they drafted him, got a phone call one night from a friend of mine of the Celtics, Michael. Now I can't even think of his name, but Michael, it'll come to me. I'm having a senior moment here. And he had just witnessed Dave Cowens in the Stokes game at Kutcher's Country Club in Monticello, New York.
Yeah.
The annual charity game played for the benefit of the late Maurice Stokes. He wasn't late at that point. And so Dave had gotten like X rebounds. He was like, if he wasn't the MVP, he was the best player on the floor. And Michael Burns, my friend, he was friendly. I was friendly with him, Celtic official, and he had seen the game and he called to tell me rave about Dave Cowens. And that was the first inkling I had. We might have something special. Even though I knew he'd be drafted 4th, I still didn't have a personal feel for him.
Right.
Okay. Well, then I go down to Red Auerbach's rookie camp, and I watch Dave Cowens play, and oh my God, Red has stolen the draft. That's what I'm thinking now. What a rebounder. I remember writing about him. In fact, he prompted me to sell an idea that was not normal then at the Boston Globe or in Boston sports, to have an off-season column on a sport. Off-season, not notes column, And so I wrote my very first NBA notes column in the summer of 70. And the lead was about this rookie sensation. We're going to have Dave Cowens. So I was, and Dave distinguished himself in a few other ways down there. There were folk stories about Dave's nighttime escapades in Marshfield, Mass. So, but I don't have the details, but I can assure you could find people who could provide them. Anyway, so he made quite a splash for himself on and off the court. And then when I got to meet him and know him, I hit it off with Dave, and he became, and I'd say this, I get this question, I go speak and I get a question, who's your favorite player? Who's your favorite player? And I said, well, my favorite player has to be Bird, and Havlicek's 1A, but my favorite all around personality, my favorite subject that I ever covered and he laps the field as Dave Cowens. When you got to know Dave Cowens personally and his outlook on life and his curiosity about life and his personality, so the entire package of Hall of Fame player, electrifying style, and most intellectually curious player I ever covered. He's very high on the list for me. And of course, my favorite story that no one else has. I have an exclusive story, is that Dave Cowens retired in my hotel room.
Right.
And I've told that story a million times. I leave my book with it. But, the long story short, it was 1980, and it was exhibition season, and we were in Terre Haute, anchored for 3 days while they were playing exhibitions against the Pacers. Gee, why did we go to Terre Haute? There was some guy named Bird on the team,
Yeah.
So that's where we anchored in Indiana. Well, Dave wasn't playing well, by the way, and he had a pretty poor game the night before in Indianapolis. But the next day we're in Terre Haute, and I go to the shoot around in the morning, and I go back to my room, and the 12 noon or so, and the door knocks. I'm on the phone, by the way, with Paul Silas, who was out in Seattle, and there stands Dave Cowens with his practice uniform on him and holding a yellow legal pad, one of these. He's holding one of these. And I said, with some papers, I said, hi, come on in. What's up? Oh, you want to talk to Cowens, Silas? So he talks to Silas. I said, what's this? He hands it to me. It's a retirement statement. He's quitting right now. I said, what do you want with me? He said, well, you put it in order. In other words, edit it a little bit if you need to. And can you get it? And then I love this one. Can you get it in the afternoon paper? That's when we still had an afternoon edition of the Globe. I said, yes, I can do that, and give me an hour or so, because I knew we could write. He had written something for us. It wasn't going to take a whole lot of fooling around with it. And what I finally came up with was about 85 to 90% Cowens and 10 to 15% Ryan. I paragraphed it. I punctuated it a little bit. And so now the kicker is, as he's going out the door from my room, after he hands me the sheet, he then turns around and says, do you mind if I call Red first?
I love that line.
Yeah, I think that's okay with me, Dave. So he calls Red, and the conversation is as follows. First of all, Red's secretary's name is Mary Faraday. Hi, Mayor. It's Mary. It's Dave. May I speak to Red? Red, it's Dave. Remember what we talked about the other night? Well, I'm doing it. Okay, I'll see you back in Boston. Click. That's the conversation. So, and now part B is it's 4:00 and the bus is leaving to go to Evansville, where they're going to play the Bulls. And Dave hasn't told the team yet. He gets on the bus to announce that he's quitting, and goes up to Parrish, who's not playing well at all, and assured him he's going to be fine. You're going to be good. Don't worry, big fellow. You're going to be great. Blah blah blah. Gives him a pep talk. Okay, that's good. So the bus, he gets off the bus leaves, and he's standing there. And I said, what's up now? Well, I'm going home to Newport, Kentucky. Long story short, he didn't have a credit card on him, and he didn't have much money, which was typical. And I go to Avis, I get the car, I rent the car, and hand him the keys. Off he goes. So yeah, I'm a little bit proprietary to Dave Cowens.
I love the story. It's terrific. Okay, Bob, a final word. What's your overall impression of Celtic City? I'm
very, very, very impressed. Nothing's ever going to be perfect, obviously. There's always going to be omissions, and and that's understandable. What they have chosen to do, I think, is remarkable. But I'm not that surprised, because the brainchild behind it was Bill Simmons, and there's hardly anybody on this earth that has a passion for the Celtics greater than Bill Simmons. And so it's good. And plus, at HBO, the production, the editing. My wife has mentioned, she's so right. The editing is phenomenal. The thing is, it's wonderful, and I can't believe there's still 6 more episodes. It's only 1/3 done, but I'm looking forward to the whole thing. I'm very impressed, and I would have gone into this as a hard marker, obviously, if they're going to, but they're living up to their reputation at HBO, and Bill is coming through as a producer with should be in there. So I'm really impressed.
All right, Bob, great job. Bob Bryan, Gary Tanguay. Jeff is on assignment this week, NCAA tournament, so he is not sleeping. Brought to you by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network. Pick more, pick less with Prize Picks.